Previous loading on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Let's take a look at some charts here for Setup Sunday. I'm going to start in a bit of an unusual place, and that is with legacy, because for the most part, since the election, crypto has been running to the beat of its own drum. So the nagging question I have here is, okay, if S&P starts to look soft, if NASDAQ starts to look soft, if the dollar breaks 107, if the 10-year yield breaks 5% to the top side, if it goes higher, do we really continue running at the beat of our own drum or not? We certainly can. It's certainly possible. And I'm not just saying this to hedge my bets. It's just a question that I'm certainly struggling with here because we've been very correlated with DXY on the BTC side, which is extremely unusual. So for S&P, what's left here at the moment? We don't quite have a chart pattern set up. We don't quite have a cloud set up. Trend is still bullish. This could just be a Tenkan bounce like it was from May to July. We just held above the blue line there. All that's possible. But we've hit the micro cup and handle target. We've hit the multi-year cup and handle target. We hit the 6,000 round number. We had the election. I'm not saying this has to be bearish, but if it were to get bearish, it would not surprise me. Now, I don't think it's going to be as bearish as 2022, beginning of 2022. There we had a weekly head and shoulders with a weekly bearish TK cross with a weekly close in the cloud. We are extremely far away from that currently. But again, the question isn't, can this go up or down? The question is, if this, then that. If this goes down, does BTC listen or does BTC continue on its merry way to 100K? You'd think eventually this stuff starts to matter. Eventually. And if we want to get bearish on the S&P, maybe this is some sort of megaphone thing where the drawdown target is like 5,400. Okay. So let's say hypothetically, S&P goes to 5,400. What do we think is going to happen for BTC? I don't think you'd be able to answer that just off the bat without seeing what happens. What's the reaction, right? Some logic would tell you, okay, maybe S&P can drag down BTC with it and mean revert BTC a little bit. BTC is a long way from being bearish, so there's no risk there. But it's questions like this that may prevent people from continuing to add up here. Now, of course, the counterpoint is, okay, if we get this Bitcoin strategic reserve, reality matters a lot less in the moment right now. A lot of people are trading as though it's going to happen. But let's say we continue to get evidence for that. Maybe Lutnick becomes the Treasury Secretary. He's very bulled up on BTC. Cantor's very involved with Tether. Maybe that helps keep BTC buoyed should the rest of the markets roll over here. We also, of course, have sailor buying. But when I look at the DXY, and it just continues, this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This could be the 8th green week in a row, very reminiscent of July. The difference, of course, is Trump versus Biden or Harris. And that's why BTC has been able to shrug this off. Maybe this is tariff expectations getting priced in, right? That's what a lot of people are telling me. The DXY is tariff expectations. We also have in the white line there the 10-year yield, which above 5% on that yellow line, and things could go boom. Things could go boom enough where maybe the Fed steps in.Maybe markets get angry. Does BTC ignore that is the question. So it's always good, if I'm driving on cruise control, which is what we're doing, right? Where it's 60 in most states in cruise control. That's like, the speed limit in Michigan, it's 70. Most people drive 80. Okay, so, you're on cruise control, destination 100K. What could take us off cruise control is things like this. And it's a wait and see. Would I want to add a fresh, huge leveraged bet up here on BTC? I think that is a bridge too far for me. But to hold on to spot, no problem. 1x, no problem. Personally, I did close all of my MSTR last week, all of my miners last week, all of my 2x BTC last week. Currently just holding spot and some 1x BTC. Not really because of this specifically, but this is certainly supporting evidence. The main reason was the lower time frame head and shoulders, which I'll get to. Add on to this the fact that oil has broke the correlation with the 10-year with DXY to the downside here very strongly. Is this pricing in global slowdown? Maybe. Is it pricing in drill baby drill in the US? Maybe. But for whatever reason, it has not held the correlation with the 10-year and the dollar. We, of course, also have inflation concerns. This is the highest trueflation print. Again, just straight up, right? Just with the dollar, with everything else, with the 10-year. And again, is the 10-year growth? Is the 10-year debt? Like, what is it? What is driving the 10-year here? Is it the market saying the Fed's not taking inflation seriously? Is it the market saying, I don't want to hold your debt if you're not going to take inflation seriously, right? Just all things to think about, because on the crypto side, you'd have no idea, right? We have Doge to infinity. We have meme coins to infinity. We have the rotations playing out. We have Tether printing. It's all good in the hood, as they say. But on the legacy side, it's a little interesting to just, ignore this and to just keep the pedal of the metal on crypto. At the very least, no one can say that they had no idea it was coming, right? Before we go any further here, let me mention today's video sponsor, Kraken Pro. Kraken Pro is a complete overhaul of the Kraken trading experience with a one-stop shop for advanced and professional traders. Kraken Pro enables efficient trading execution across multiple markets with a UI that allows for unique optimization tailored to your trading style. You can check out Kraken Pro with a link in the description of this video. Not investment advice. Crypto trading involves risk of loss. Cryptocurrency services are provided to U.S. and U.S. territory customers by Payward Ventures Inc., PVI, DBA, Kraken. One encouraging thing this week, really for the past few weeks, has been just continued flows of close to 2 billion, we'll call it 1.8 on average over the past 5 weeks. Very, very strong flows. Some of this is the basis arb, sure, but we had the event, which was the election. We had an outcome, and that outcome should have provided an expected move in price, and it did. And what else did we see? We saw flows, right? This wasn't just some failed breakout trade. We had the volume to back it up. We had the flows to back it up. And that has certainly helped keep BTC very bullish. ETH also had its highest weekly inflow on the ETF front last week. I think a lot of people have sort of left ETH for dead. I think at some point in this cycle, it's going to wake up. I don't know when, but at some point it's going to wake up. It might be the last one to wake up. But the other issue here is, okay, you're playing the rotation game. If you're worried about legacy pulling down BTC and creating some sort of mean reversion setup, then you're probably less likely to go looking for laggards such as ETH, and you're waiting for the all clear. So the order of operations that makes sense for me is, okay, let's say, we'll talk about it. If we think BTC could go to 76, let's say, which is the daily Kijun. If you think that's the case, do you want to sit in ETH here? Probably not. Are you willing to sit in BTC? Probably. And it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg problem. What's going to actually drag ETH higher is momentum. And if it can't get momentum because everybody's looking at something else and or thinking about the mean reversion on BTC, then that just continues to perpetuate ETH underperformance. I did want to bring up the quick little comparison stack for BTC. So this is price and cycle low. We're right on schedule. We're actually overperforming 2015 to 2018 and pretty close to 2018 to 2022. We're at day 725. That gives us at least another 100 days. One of the other things I was looking at for this video was, okay, we consolidated for 7 months. What do we expect on a breakout? Well, the breakout should last more than a couple weeks if we consolidated for 7 months, right? Is it going to last 7 months, the breakout? Maybe. Is it going to last 2 years? I doubt it, right? But looking at these historic reference points helps put a timetable on it, right? Are we going to top out like we did in 2020 in basically the next 150 days? Or are we going to send it for the next 300 days like we did in 2016? It's possible, right? We'll see. We'll see. And I know what to look for. It's the cloud. That's what I'm going to be looking for, is always the cloud. On MVRV, some on-chain stuff for BTC, we also look fine. The danger zone is anything above 6. The be careful zone is 7. And the you better be super sure is 8 to 9. So we are currently at 3 effectively. So we got room to run there. I thought I'd pull up the Doge MVRV because it's one of the few tokens based on UTXOs where you can actually look at the MVRV for Doge. And the Doge MVRV is a lot more troubling than the BTC MVRV. Doge looks to top out between 4 and 6, let's say, on MVRV, the neon line there, price in the red. And it did get into the 3s over the past week. So it would make more sense to me, if BTC pulls back, if it gets anywhere close to 76, alts are going to be down 25% or more. Memes are going to be down 50%. And that's likely where you'd want to think about something like Doge again. But up here, it's just not for me based on this and based on price. BTC ETF cost basis also getting a little long in the tooth, but we'll see, right? This is a new paradigm. Are people going to sell based on risk parameters? Are they going to sell based on calendar, based on quarterly, based on end of year, or are they just going to hold it and see what happens? We're certainly watching this one play out in real time. We don't know what the acceptable, unrealized profit on the ETFs really are before the market rips down. 2-year moving average multiplier, plenty of room there. Top at 212 historically. It's a pretty good level to think about taking some off. There's a lot of people asking, right, where's the high? I gotta trade this. I gotta find out when we're gonna sell off, and I gotta, most people better off just doing nothing. Just do nothing. Here's the Mayer multiple, which is basically how far away we are from the 200-day moving average. You can see where this gets overheated. We tend to get into some trouble, and we are nowhere near that. Currently, that's at 155 on the overheated zone. On my multiple, Carbide Nocta multiple based on the 20-week moving average, we're also plenty room for more here. No concern on this multiple, which tends to top out closer to like 1.5 plus, 1.5 to 2, and we are at 1.4. So we got plenty of room, in my opinion, on the weekly, which is going to keep moving up with price. Bitcoin value days destroyed. Looks fine. This is like coin days destroyed. If a bunch of old coins are moving, that's going to show up here. Not an issue. No big deal. We had a lot of that thanks to GBTC and the ETFs earlier in the year. We're not seeing that at all just yet. Miners, I'll talk about towards the end. Miners have been really disappointing to me price-wise. They really have not kept up with BTC. And it's just a reminder that the beta stuff has the opportunity to outperform, but there's certainly no guarantee. Looking at the Puel multiple, again, you're just looking at danger zones here for me. We got plenty of room. Puel multiples at 1.2. We don't get into the danger zone until like 3.5. Plenty of room there. Miners themselves do best when revenue on-chain is high, and on-chain revenue has not spiked here. So it's up, sure, but it has not spiked dramatically like it did in May, like it did in January, and like it did in May 2023. Looking at funding across everything, no really major issues here. Some of the memeier stuff, overheated, bonk, peanut, Mudang, Popcat, what you'd expect, right? You'd expect froth from the highest risk stuff first. BTC ETH look fairly tame compared to the rest of that. And it's always good to be mindful of seasonality. Quarterly returns, as we expected, very high relative to the rest of the year, in the wheelhouse of expectations, right? And October, November, also in the wheelhouse of expectations. So nothing there is too out of the ordinary just yet. Going back to BTC price, going into the weekend, one thing I was most concerned with was this structure here on the hourly or the 4-hour. It's one thing if we're consolidating in maybe a flag or something that's obviously bullish on a higher time frame. This still looks like it's trying to make a head and shoulders. Whether that plays out, I don't know. But you just have to, for me, I can't just blindly long this assuming it's going to go up. It's very much a wait and see. Now, if we do negate the head and shoulders, where could this go? You just take the fib here and it brings you to 100K. So that's what I'm looking at. The other thing that I'm mindful of is the trend channel distance from the pitchfork. We're basically where we were in March, looking at all that, all things considered. So this could go higher. This could try to escape the pitchfork. That's always possible. The top of the pitchfork is at 100 as well. I guess that's your clue. Do we get smacked down at 100 or do we keep going? But this is very far away from the Tenkin, the Kijun. It's far away from the midline of the pitchfork. It's really not unlike January, February, March, where we had this breakout and then we made a decision, and that decision was go sideways. Now, I think we have potentially another move higher here, but after that, it's going to get really interesting, if we are able to continue that or not. But so far, so good on BTC. The question is, should I be short here? Sorry, that is not the question. The question is, I really hope people are long enough to capture this, because this has been one heck of a move. For Sol is starting to break out. really as you'd expect. If BTC is doing well and everything around BTC is doing well, everything should benefit. That includes SOL. If we take a conservative measurement here and we use this as the range measured higher, we're starting to approach the expected move somewhere between 240, 280, 250, right? Certainly sub 300 is what you'd expect. If you want to take a non-conservative approach, maybe you'd say 300, 350. So there's definitely room for more, but it's good to see SOL participating there. ETH, on the other hand, of all the things that are going on around it, ETH easily doing the least. Now, a lot of charts had this exact price action over the past few days. They've had this straight up down 3 days, and many of them have gone just to the stratosphere, not ETH. So the question is why, right? I don't have an answer for that, but should this start to break like the rest of them, potentially that brings us to 4K, which is just basically an ABCD kind of Elliott wave idea. But this could represent a rising three methods, and we saw that basically on everything. All the memes look overheated to me. Most of the L1s look overheated to me. Ripple, Stellar, everything just looks like it needs a breather, and is certainly waiting on what BTC is going to do. Link, probably another example where it hasn't broken out yet, but it had this rising three methods potential for higher. And I think even Ripple had this, not so much. Ripple certainly, this old idea, if you watch some of the older videos past couple of weeks talking about 66 cents, that's why it was so important, right? The market knew that level was there. And when it broke that level, it was off to the races. But up here, I'd certainly like to see a little consolidation on Ripple before going any further. AVEX is another one that I like. It looks okay. Anything above the cloud that hasn't moved up 200% in the past week, to me, is fair game. I'm not worried about what this might look like. Trend-wise, this should be okay. We'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. But I like how that looks. I would much rather trade this than Ripple for continuation, than Pepe for continuation. Now, I may be in the wrong trade, right? But if, again, BTC mean reverts, Pepe is easily down 50%, right? From the war where it broke out, right? All of the memes are just going to get absolutely obliterated. So you certainly have to be mindful of that. DOT is another one that surprisingly broke out. It's above the cloud. This looks good from my perspective, from a trend reversal perspective. Love it. Full cloud is ready to be bullish. Some crypto equities in the tail end here. MSTR, the reason I cut this completely is because it reached the target plus the pitchfork target. This could keep going. I could buy higher, whatever. I'm totally fine with that. I don't like the premium to NAV here. That's just me. You can flame me in the comments for it, but I like this better. Should we go lower? And again, if I have any doubt about Bitcoin going higher and potentially mean reverting, the first thing I'm cutting is the leverage and the beta. So if this gets anywhere close, realistically, probably the Tenkin, which would be 300. But if it gets down to 250, absolutely, I'm there. BITX is another one. Huge breakout. Mean reversion is basically 40. And it certainly could keep going. It just looks very parabolic. As you'd expect, it's a 2x product. I put a lot of these against BITX because if you're not beating BITX, which has high fees plus volatility drag, then what's the point, really, right? MSTR against BITX has done very, very well, but it is looking a little toppy up here with the potential inverted Adam and Eve plus M double top plus losing the cloud, potentially, over the next couple weeks. This could always hold sideways and break higher, but it's starting to favor BITX over MSTR here. WGMI is another one. The miners, the ETF, this buy-sell ping pong so far has worked out. And here it just tells me to do nothing. There's no reason to do anything. WGMI against BITX, if you're not getting paid for the risk of the miners, the idiosyncratic risk or the sector risk or whatever, it just makes a lot less sense to me. If BITX, again, with the fees and the volatility drag is outperforming by a mile, what's the point? What's the point of miners or WGMI? That may change in the future. That may change when we're back above 0.75 on this ratio. But you certainly got an answer on that this week. Even SOL against BITX. For the most part, this has done well. But again, if you want to get paid for your risk on alts versus just holding 2x BTC, you'd want this to look more like MSTR to me than what this chart looks like, which is kind of lukewarm. And maybe this reverses, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But certainly not slam dunk bullish. CleanSpark individually as the miner, and just another reason to be very careful with these, because you got your breakout, you got your expected move, you were in the wheelhouse of the fib target, awesome, but then it immediately gave it all back, right? So as much as I want to trade these to the long side on trend, the market just tells me we're not there yet. We're not there yet. That may change this week, this month, I don't know, but it looks like it saw its own shadow and just went back into the hidey hole for now. Just not the place to be based on trend metrics. And if we look at coin versus CleanSpark, this continues to favor coin. So again, the mining people, why? You can hold BITX, you can hold MSTR, you can hold Spot, you can hold Coinbase, you can do whatever you want, but the miners just make not a lot of sense to me based on how they've traded. And here's coin over BITX, which again, if the numerator isn't clearly winning, then to me that just says, yeah, just keep it simple. Keep it simple in the 2x product. So things to watch for this week, obviously, what happens with legacy, what happens with the dollar, does the 10-year keep going? Does the Fed have to step in, which is probably too soon for that? And then on BTC, do we see this breakdown on low time frames, which could lead to a uglier mean reversion on high time frames? And does ETH continue to look dead, or does it start to wake up for whatever reason? It doesn't need much, but when everything else is a faster horse and ETH looks like it's ready for the glue factory, that's just a problem, right? Now, this could be a falling wedge, and maybe I'm being too harsh, and this could break up this week, like I said, with that ABCD. But man, it has not traded well relative to everything else. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.